Hey guys, Michael B. the Game Genie here, and welcome to another episode of Video Game Nostalgia, with an updated new intro.
Goodbye.
Today is a very special episode of Video Game Nostalgia, and to be honest, one I didn't think I would ever do. What is your favorite Mega Man game? You see guys, what I mean by this is, it's really not fair. It's not fair for me to say what my favorite Mega Man game is, because I'm completely biased. Anybody who's watched any of my other videos, especially my NES Top 10, and heard me talk about gaming on the Nintendo Entertainment System, know that one of my favorite games of all time, and my favorite NES game, is Mega Man 2. There's just no competition. And this is what I mean by it's not fair. Basically, I only like Mega Man 2. That's the only game in the series I liked. I just didn't like the other games because they weren't Mega Man 2. Mega Man 2 was the second game I ever got for the Nintendo Entertainment System, and basically this is the game that has really formed me as the gamer I am today, because I fell so in love with this game, everything about it. I mean, I love the music, the graphics were just eye-popping, and you know what I mean by eye-popping. It's the color palettes they use for Mega Man and the level design just made it pop off the screen and just made it look so good. On top of that, for me, this is the game with the best difficulty, in my opinion, meaning that the weapons that you get from the Robot Masters aren't necessarily essential to beating the other Robot Masters. You can do it, but your P-Buster is charged up just enough so you can do it other ways, and it's not too complicated, meaning that it's still extremely fun and it doesn't have that mind-numbing challenge some of the other Mega Man games have. So guys, that's it. I mean, Mega Man 2 was just the perfect game in my opinion. I loved it so much. However, in my very last episode of Video Game Nostalgia, Danny from the 16-Bit Brothers basically brought up in his video game resolutions that he was going to go back and finish all the Mega Man games on the NES. Well, that's something I've never done, and it's something I've always been intrigued by doing. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to put my challenge offer away, my resolution, and I'm going to kind of photobomb Danny's challenge. Sorry, Danny. No! So anyways, I finished all the other Mega Man games, starting with Mega Man 1. I can certainly see how Mega Man 1 was the innovator for the entire series. It's the first game that really brought into play the idea of rock, paper, scissors, that you need one power to basically get past the next stage in the game. And you know what? It laid a lot of groundwork, but it just isn't as fun as Mega Man 2. I always found that Mega Man 1 wasn't as perfect. So anyways, when I went back to play it, I realized, you know what? I'm giving Mega Man 2 way too much credit. Mega Man 1 is a fantastic game. But it's probably the hardest game in the series because you don't have use of the energy tanks and there is no password system, so you have to play the game through in one sitting, much like the Castlevania series. So it's extremely difficult. Also, I find the bosses extremely challenging, and it almost forces you to use the cheat with the select button, which I hate using, but really I have no other choice. I have to use it at times, especially on the Yellow Devil the Rock Monster. And what really irritates me is the challenge. I mean, going through those 4 Robot Masters at the end, thank God they didn't include all 6 at one time, because that was an absolute slog going through them. Like, the other games, you know, especially Mega Man 2, you have a moment to recoup and you get an energy tank afterwards. This game, no, they don't do you any favors. It is a nightmare getting past the 4 Robot Masters. But the Wily fight isn't too overall difficult, and I managed to finish the game. Very happy to say I finally beat Mega Man 1. So on to Mega Man 2. Most people know I've already talked a lot about Mega Man 2, but going back to an early episode of Video Game Nostalgia, you know as a kid that I've never been able to beat the game when I was younger. That was until last summer when I finally figured out that the dragon that just, I don't know what he did, he creeped me out or something. Like, I'd be jumping on the blocks and I'd just be so amped up that I couldn't get past him. I found out that he's actually a joke, and on top of the quick boomerang, he's even a joke just using the P-Buster, shooting him in the eye. As long as you position yourself on the platforms correctly and you don't get too panicked, you can beat him no problem. And then there's Mega Man 3. Well, Mega Man 3, this is the real debate between most gamers. Which game is the best in the series? I have always been with the crew that said that Mega Man 2 was the best game in the series, but then there's all the people that say Mega Man 3 was the best in the series. So going back and actually playing Mega Man 3 and understanding how to actually get far in it really changed my mind on Mega Man 3. You see, before, I always thought Mega Man 3 was a completely inferior game, but it's not. It is just as good as Mega Man 2, just a little bit different. It's a little bit more challenging as the P-Buster isn't as powerful. The Robot Masters, to me, they don't have the same feel, but that's what happens when you do a game that comes out every year, 2 years, and you've got to recycle the same concepts. It gets cheesy at times. So you have characters like Snake Man, which everybody loves, but I just found them really not to make any sense. However, going back and playing it and actually learning how to play, I found out that Mega Man 3 is still a very, very good game, and like I mentioned earlier, probably just as good as Mega Man 2. It has some amazing musical tracks. Graphically, it's just as good. What can I say? Mega Man 3 is a fantastic game. It's actually a really long game too, because after you beat the 8 Robot Masters, you don't go on automatically to Wily's Castle. You have to go through and face the robots from Mega Man 2, and they are a nightmare in this game. They're certainly not the easy walkthrough they were in Mega Man 2. Here's the point where, as a kid, I almost thought the Mega Man series just went to pot. Like, I pretty much gave up on it after Mega Man 3. Like, I was very excited about Mega Man 3 after coming out with Mega Man 2. I got Mega Man 3, I found it a lot more challenging and a little more frustrating than Mega Man 2, so I never really had the emphasis to go through and finish it. So when Mega Man 4 came out, I didn't rush out and ask to get the game for Christmas or ask to get the game for my birthday. I decided I was going to rent it. And when I rented it, it was the hardest one yet, in my opinion. I really found it difficult as a child. I remember playing the stages, and I could get nowhere in this game. But like the rest, I committed myself to actually being able to go through and finish it. I learned which Robot Masters, which path I should have to take, which robot weapons basically affect the other weapons in the right way. And I played through it, and to tell you the truth, this was another excellent example of a Mega Man game. Sure, like, I felt like the Robot Masters had been watered down a little bit again, but here's the point where I started thinking, maybe they're not watered down, maybe they're just getting a little bit more inventive. And that really changed my mindset on the Robot Masters. I started to appreciate them more. I really like the new powers in the game, and graphically, I don't know if it was a step up or it was just more of the same. And you know what, that's not a bad thing. Like I mentioned earlier, I thought the Mega Man games had some of the best graphics on the NES. Mega Man 4 was a fantastic game. The one thing that really bothered me was you couldn't save energy tanks. I think this is the first time that you couldn't save energy tanks with the password. So after I got through the 8 Robot Masters, I took a break, I went and put my password back in. My energy tanks were gone. So I had to actually go back and, I think it was Skullman's level. You can collect 2 energy tanks at a time. Go through Skullman's level a couple times and actually pick up the energy tanks. Fill it up for my big run through Wily's Castle. But it's actually not Wily's Castle in this game. This is where they started doing the M. Night Shyamalan twists, and including basically red herrings. This time along it was Dr. Cossack. Then on to Mega Man 5, which is arguably the most expensive game in the series and the rarest, I guess you call it, cartridge out of the whole lot. The hardest one to find. Mega Man 5 is a fine game. Mega Man 5 is more the same. It's another excellent game. It's got all the same things going for it that I said about Mega Man 4. The only real issue I have with it is this is the one, surprisingly, I found the most challenging. Most people say that 4 and 1 are the real nightmares, and 5 is the hardest, but I actually found 5 to be the toughest, and I'll explain myself in a second. But the Robot Masters, you know, it's more the same. If you learn the right weapons to use, you take some time, study their patterns, you can beat them, no problem. When you get to Proto Man stage is actually incredibly easy. I got through it no problem. So I understand what people are saying there. It's an easy game. But then as you move along to Dr. Wily, things get a little bit harder. You go through the Robot Masters, not really a challenge. But when you get to Wily himself, I don't know what it was, but I found this Wily boss extremely hard. Like, I found his patterns really difficult. And I found myself right at the end down to the last energy tank. And we probably wouldn't be filming this video right now if I didn't get lucky and actually kill him with my last energy tank. Then on to Mega Man 6. Mega Man 6 is kind of a weird bird. I've always heard that it wasn't a very good game, and I heard somewhere, but I might be wrong, that it was co-produced by Nintendo. Might be wrong about that, but that's what I heard. Mega Man 6 does a couple things very differently. First off, it's got kind of the same graphical style as 5. I didn't talk about this when I talked about 5, but it almost seemed like the graphics were a little bit different. They didn't have the same jump to them that was in Mega Man 1 through 4, well, really 2 through 4. But it almost seemed a little condensed and a little bit more dried out. I don't know if that's the right term or not, but that's how I felt. Anyways, Mega Man 6 uses a very different convention, as in there isn't really a rush gen anymore. What you do is you have the ability to basically get a power suit where you can either charge up your fist and punch through something, or rush turns into kind of like a power suit and you can glide, which is essential in some of the later levels and really makes the game a lot easier to finish. For me, this was a lot easier. I really enjoyed this game. I enjoyed the power-ups, and I really didn't have too much of a challenge getting through Wily's level. I got through it pretty easily. So those are the 6 NES titles. I've gone through and I've finished them all in the last little while, and I've got to say, my ideas originally about Mega Man 2 being the only Mega Man game that mattered to me were definitely wrong. I mean, there's so many great Mega Man games, but we're not done. There's also another host of Mega Man games. It's funny because when I was actually doing this, I've got Mega Man Anniversary Collection on the PlayStation 2, so I could have played it anyways, but someone contacted me locally here because they knew I was going through all the Mega Man games, and they actually had a copy of Mega Man 7, and I got a great deal on it. So I started playing Mega Man 7. And it's good, but let's be honest here. This is more so Mega Man X version of the original Mega Man. You gotta understand what I mean. This is still a very good game, and it has a lot of really key and core elements of the Mega Man series. But for anybody who's actually played this one, you'll understand that the jumping just isn't right. I don't know if I can explain myself any better than that. Yeah, you can jump, the power slide's there, but it doesn't have the same, I don't know, fluidity to the jump. That'd be the best way to put it. So it's a little bit harder to do some of the more difficult platforming that we're used to in Mega Man, and it's got that feel of Mega Man X to it, except you don't have the wall jump and the other things. Anyways, that's the only real complaint I have about Mega Man 7. There's a lot of things in Mega Man 7 that are unreal. Like, graphically, this is one of the most beautiful games in the series. I love the way the Robot Masters come in. I love the power-ups. I love the jump scenes between, like when you start the game, you don't start out immediately at the 8 robot masters you check. You actually have to go through a level and face this stupid steamroller boss. Midway through, you take a trip to the Robot Museum, and you see Dr. Wily resurrecting Gutsman, because obviously he's the most important robot master ever. But anyways, there's a lot of really cool elements, visually and, audibly. That's not even a word, but you know what I mean. Like, soundtrack-wise, it's good, but some of the other games, in my opinion, have better music. This just has more deep music. And graphically, I mean, it's unreal. Like, it's one of the things you've always wished for in a Mega Man game. However, it just isn't the same. This is something that also turned me off from 8 on the PlayStation, which I remember buying as a teenager, and I was like, oh my god, you know, I'm so excited to finally see Mega Man in 32 bits. But I got the same feeling from Mega Man 7 that I'm getting from Mega Man 8. It's not really Mega Man. And from there's 2 more games to play that are download-only titles. I have 9. I've never picked up 10. I haven't had a chance to go through them yet, so I'm not really going to talk about them in this episode of Video Game Nostalgia. So where do we stand? After playing through all the Mega Man games on the NES, you know, having my history with Mega Man 8 on the PlayStation, and just getting Mega Man 7 and trying through that, where do I stand? Which Mega Man game is my favorite? Should be no surprise, it's still Mega Man 2. I can't help it. That's the nostalgia in me. It just makes me appreciate that game more than anybody else. But what this experience has taught me is that Mega Man 2 isn't the only game. So all those people that I have arguments with all the time that say Mega Man 3 is better than Mega Man 2, and they're so vehement about it, I get where you're coming from. Mega Man 3 is a fantastic game. But for me, just on personal choice and what I like from a Mega Man game, Mega Man 2 will always be my favorite game in the series. So guys, what I want to know now is, what's your favorite Mega Man game? Are you like me and you've had the same favorite ever since you were young? Or did you have an opportunity to play all the other ones, and did you have a favorite when you were younger that's now changed? Or, you know, do you have a favorite that's completely off the map? Are you a Mega Man 5 fan and you like that one the best? Or do you like Mega Man 7 more than the rest? Who knows, maybe you even like Mega Man 8. Guys, just let me know. And honestly, this is just the original Mega Man series. I know there's a lot of people that are automatically going to say X, X2, X3 because it's expensive. You know, that's fine, guys, but this is about the original Mega Man series. We can talk about Mega Man X another day. In my opinion, it's a similar game, but it's not the same series. And I know there's tons of other ones. Mega Man and Bass, Mega Man Battle Network, Mega Man 64, Mega Man Legends, Mega Man Equestrian Challenge. I don't know, but just about the original Mega Man series. Anyways, guys, thank you very much for watching this episode of Video Game Nostalgia. This is Michael B. the Game Genie, and I'll talk to you next time.